The soft drumming of rain against cardboard boxes echoed through my cramped bedroom as I hurriedly shoved what little I could into my worn-out backpack. Downstairs, the voices of my parents grew louder, sharper, more urgent. "You've got 1 hour, 1 hour to leave this house," my father bellowed. My fingers shook as I grabbed the bare essentials, a few clothes, my laptop, and a white envelope filled with $200 in graduation money saved from relatives, cards. It wasn't much, but it was all I had. My name is Olivia Parker, and this is the story of how my own family abandoned me at 18. The fight that triggered my eviction wasn't over anything scandalous. I simply told my parents that I wanted to take a gap year before college, to work, reflect, and really figure out what I wanted from life. That suggestion detonated like a bomb. My father, a third-generation attorney, erupted. "No daughter of mine is going to waste a year doing nothing," he shouted, his face turning a dangerous purple I'd come to recognize as a sign of imminent rage. "You're going to law school, just like your sister Jessica." Ah, Jessica, the golden child, 25 years old, already an associate at Dad's firm, married to a surgeon, and pregnant with her first child. Every parent's shining example. But I wasn't Jessica. I never wanted to be. "I don't want to be a lawyer," I said softly, trying not to waver. "I want to explore different paths." That's when Mom stepped in, her voice like ice shards. "We've already paid your first semester at George Hahn Law. You're going." "I never asked you to," I replied. "I don't want to waste your money, or my time, on something that makes me miserable." "Miserable?" Dad scoffed bitterly. "You want miserable? Try explaining to our friends that our youngest daughter's throwing away her future." "For what? What exactly do you think you're going to do?" I inhaled deeply. "I want to launch my own business." The silence was immediate, and then the laughter came. Cold, cutting laughter that pierced straight through me. "A business?" Mom snorted, wiping away tears of amusement. "You can barely manage your allowance." "I have ideas," I tried to explain. "I've been working on a platform." "Enough." Dad slammed his palm against the dining table. "Either you go to law school, or you leave. You're 18. You're an adult now. Make your decision." I stood slowly. My decision was already made. "Then I'll go." Their expressions faltered for a moment, surprised I called their bluff. Then Dad's face hardened. "Fine. You have 1 hour. After that, I'm changing the locks." Upstairs again, I zipped the last item into my bag as I heard Mom on the phone with Jessica. "Can you believe her? So ungrateful, after all we've done." I picked up the one photo I'd kept on my nightstand, the only one where I looked truly happy. It was taken last summer, me standing proudly next to the computer setup I'd bought with my tutoring money. Behind me, the whiteboard was covered in flowcharts and code for the project I'd poured myself into. The project no one ever asked about. For 2 years, I'd been building a platform to help small businesses streamline their social media. An AI-based system that could predict trends, schedule content, and optimize engagement. My parents thought I was just wasting time on the computer. Thunder cracked as I pulled the zipper closed on my backpack. 55 minutes had passed. In the hallway mirror, I caught a glimpse of myself, pale, puffy-eyed, frightened. But under it all, there was something more. Something fierce. Determination. The rain hadn't let up as I stepped out into the cold, damp night. My backpack, heavy on my shoulders, dug into my skin with every step. I didn't look back at the house. I couldn't. It was no longer my home. I had no plan, no job, no apartment. Just a sliver of hope in the startup project I'd built quietly in the background of my so-called, ungrateful, life. I walked for blocks under the dull orange glow of streetlights, my sneakers soaked through. I texted 3 friends. 2 didn't answer. 1 replied, "I'd love to help, but my parents wouldn't be okay with it." Typical. I ended up at a 24-hour diner, ordering the cheapest thing on the menu, a cup of coffee I nursed for hours. I kept my laptop open like I belonged, scrolling through job listings, gig boards, and looking up couch surfing sites. At 3 a.m., I found a post from someone renting out a basement room for $150 a month in exchange for light housekeeping and pet sitting. I messaged them instantly. My fingers were numb from cold and exhaustion, but somehow I managed to sound polite and professional. By 6 a.m., they responded. The room was still available, and the woman, Lydia, said she liked my honesty. I could move in the next day. I spent that night in the back booth of the diner, curled up in my jacket, pretending to be reading. The waitress let me be. I think she knew. The next morning, I met Lydia, a kind-hearted 60-something widow with 3 rescue cats and a lavender-scented house. Her basement was small but dry and warm, with its own entrance. She gave me a set of keys and didn't ask many questions. I didn't offer any. It wasn't ideal, but it was safe. And I could finally sleep. Over the next few weeks, I worked whatever I could find, delivering groceries, walking dogs, virtual assistant tasks online. At night, I returned to my project. The social media tool I had quietly named Echo Boost. With no distractions, I focused harder than I ever had. I refined the algorithms, fixed bugs, even set up a clean user interface using free design templates. I taught myself marketing basics, how to create landing pages, and how to pitch. It wasn't glamorous. My meals were instant noodles and canned soup. I reused coffee filters. I couldn't afford to get sick or even lose an hour of work. But something about building this dream from scratch, without anyone watching or judging, lit a fire in me. The very rejection that had broken me now fueled me. 3 months later, I launched Echo Boost publicly. No one cared, but I didn't stop. I wrote blog posts. I reached out to small business owners on Reddit and Twitter. I gave free trials to influencers who managed their own accounts. I gathered feedback, tweaked features, and slowly, interest began to grow. A vegan bakery in Portland used it. Then a local author. Then a vintage clothing shop in Atlanta. They shared their results, how their reach and sales improved. Testimonials trickled in. I turned them into case studies. I started charging $10 per month. 10 people signed up, then 20. Then one day, someone emailed me from a startup accelerator based in Austin. They had seen my posts and wanted to talk. At first, I thought it was spam. But when I joined the Zoom call and saw the panel of mentors asking me detailed questions, I realized it was real. They were impressed that I had built it all myself, with no funding or team. They offered me a place in their 6-month program, with a $20,000 grant to help me grow. I couldn't breathe. 6 months later, Echo Boost had 2,000 paying users. I hired my first freelancer, a developer from Brazil who had also once been homeless. We bonded instantly. It was a year to the day since I'd been kicked out. I stood backstage at a tech conference in San Francisco, clutching my note cards, dressed in a second-hand blazer I'd tailored myself. Echo Boost now had over 10,000 users, a small team, and we had just crossed $300,000 in annual revenue. The growth had caught the eye of several investors. And today, I was the keynote speaker, sharing how I built it all from a basement, broke, unwanted, and alone. But none of them knew the real story. Not yet. After the event, while taking photos with attendees, I got a call from an unknown number. I let it ring twice, then answered out of curiosity. "Olivia, it's your stepmother." I froze. Her voice felt like a ghost pulling me into cold water. "I just wanted to say, we saw the article about you in Forbes. Your father read it, too." We're surprised and impressed. I let silence answer her. "Listen," she added, "your father and we wanted to ask if you'd like to come by. Maybe, talk things through. We miss you." I nearly laughed. Miss me? They had thrown me out with nothing. Now that I was somebody worth Googling, they wanted a reunion. I said nothing for a long time, then finally replied, "I'm busy building my company." "Just like you told me not to." I hung up. Later that month, I got an invitation to a fundraiser gala. The host, one of the very elite families in my city. My father and stepmother would be attending. I RSVP'd, yes. The night of the gala, I walked in wearing a stunning emerald gown, custom, sleek, powerful. My heels clicked confidently across the marble floor. I wasn't the same girl who had left home with a torn hoodie and rain in her eyes. People swarmed me, eager to network, compliment, get noticed. And then, I saw them, my father and Diana. Their faces twisted in surprise and, was that guilt? Diana approached first. Olivia, you look incredible. I gave a tight smile. Money and peace of mind look good on me. My father stepped forward, clearly rehearsing his apology. We didn't realize what you were capable of. That's the thing, I said coldly. You never tried to understand. You only saw what fit your control. They blinked, unsure what to say. You didn't believe in me when I needed you most. But thank you, I said. If you hadn't kicked me out, I might never have built Echo Boost. I turned and walked away, every step a silent scream of vindication. Across the room, investors waited, cameras flashed, and my team, my real family, raised their glasses. That night, I didn't cry. That night, I celebrated not just the success I had earned, but the person I had become. Not in spite of being abandoned, but because of it. It had been almost 4 years since I walked out into the rain with nothing but a backpack and $200. Now, I stood on the rooftop terrace of EchoBoost's new downtown headquarters. The sun was setting behind the skyline, casting golden light across the crowd gathered for our company's anniversary celebration. Investors, employees, clients, everyone who believed in the vision when it was just code on a cluttered whiteboard. I took the mic and looked out at the people who had become my tribe. When I started Echo Boost, I had no support, no backing, and no place to call home. I was 18, broke, and told I'd fail. But here's the thing, sometimes being pushed out is what teaches you to stand up. They clapped, some even stood, but I wasn't done. Tonight isn't about revenge, it's about transformation. I built this company so that no young entrepreneur ever feels as alone as I did. And I'm proud to announce our newest initiative, Echo Futures, a grant and mentorship program for underprivileged youth in tech. The crowd roared, cameras flashed. Behind them, I spotted 2 familiar faces, my father and Diana. They had come, uninvited, again. This time, they stood quietly in the back, observing, not demanding. After the event, my father approached me with caution. His voice was quiet. I watched your whole speech. And, I finally get it. Do you? I asked, arms crossed. You didn't just build a company, he said. You built a home for kids like you once were. I was blind, Olivia. I only saw what I wanted you to be, not who you actually were. Diana stepped beside him. You were right to walk away. We wish we hadn't given you the reason to. I studied them, not for words, but for effort. They looked different, not just older, but smaller. Humbled. You want forgiveness, I said quietly. But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means I don't carry the weight of your choices anymore. Tears welled in Diana's eyes. My father nodded. I took a breath. You're welcome to come to our coding camp launch next week, I said. As volunteers, not VIPs. It wasn't a reconciliation. It was a test. A first brick on a long road. They accepted. Later that night, I sat in my office. The walls were lined with photos. My first apartment, my first laptop, the first check I ever deposited for Echo Boost. In the center was the photo I had carried since that night. Me, young, determined, forgotten by the world, but not by herself. That photo had once been a symbol of survival. Now, it was a monument to self-belief. My phone buzzed. A message from a teenage girl named Arya in Detroit. I read your story. My parents don't support my coding dreams either. But you made me believe it's possible. Thank you for existing. I stared at the message, then replied. Don't wait for permission. Build anyway. The world needs what only you can create. I looked out at the city lights. I wasn't just Olivia Parker, the billionaire founder of Echo Boost. I was proof that being thrown out isn't the end. Sometimes, it's the beginning. And as the stars appeared one by one above my rooftop, I whispered. We didn't just survive, we soared.